Hey, what's up, everybody? BDO44 coming at you with another video. All right, so the Lakers and the Celtics battled it out in a late night summer league game, which is pretty rare these days. I don't think I've seen a one that comes on same time that you would expect a Western Conference matinee night, not matinee, but prime time matchup to take place. But it was the final game on the slate, and the Lakers got kicked around like we always do in the summer league this year. We really, really suck, man. We really suck as a unit. This is an awful, awful summer league team, man. Hard to watch, very hard to watch. Um, there were some good things. Moses Brown looked great out there in the few minutes that we gave him. I think he was only out there for like 14 minutes, but he was getting MVP chance. Obviously, it was a joke, but he was really helpful out there, man. We saw good things from him on both sides of the floor. I'd like to see him be a part of our preseason lineup. I really would. I think he's been uh, able to kind of showcase himself as somebody who should probably be given another opportunity. So I think he's done enough in terms of showcasing himself to be worthy of an invite to training camp. So hopefully we see that. I'd like to see him be a part of what we're doing uh, for our franchise, because the long arms, the rebounding ability, just some of the other stuff, to put backs and block shots. I just think um, he should be probably given an opportunity, especially with our center position being as it is. Colin Castleton, he did some good things, but he also did some things out there that were a little irritating. Some turnover stuff that we had going on. Neemias Queta, the guy who was matched up against him, was having his way. He was the high man tonight. So there was some good Castleton, there was some bad Castleton, and it's like some of the stuff I was worried about. I was telling you guys in the last video about Summer League. It's kind of what we saw tonight. He just doesn't, he's not the strongest center to go up against explosive centers and heavy centers. He's just going to get pushed around. He's going to help you in some areas, though, get putbacks and rebounds and stuff. He plays a solid game. I like the idea that he can push the ball, but sometimes he gets too excited when he has an opportunity to do that and he turns the ball over. It's like you still got to work on getting the ball to a guard at the end of the day. I like the idea that my center can push it, but not looking off guards so that he could do that. So there's some things out there about Castleton tonight that I thought were not great. And I thought Moses Brown ultimately played a little better than he did. And I think we were a better team with Moses playing the center tonight. So, don't want to crap all over Castleton. He's had a good summer league, but this wasn't my favorite Castleton game. Not at all. Max Lewis did a great job in the first quarter. Hit 3 threes. He ended with a 3 for 8 from behind the arc. So I thought this was a good Max Lewis game after he had been pretty dang cold throughout the course of most of the summer league. But he's been highly inconsistent. Either he's really hot or really cold. And tonight, he was hot, but we didn't see him out there as much, which was kind of surprising. I think this was one of those games where our coaching staff was willing to punt the game to kind of put certain lineups on the floor to kind of experiment a little bit, maybe showcase a few guys. So I kind of thought that we weren't really playing to win, but more so to get data, and that's always tough to watch, but I think that's really what this was about. We showcased Sean East a little more tonight. Didn't see Kuzi at all. I was a little disappointed with that because I think our team runs the point guard much better when we have him available to us. Sean East did some good things on the defensive end, so I think that's kind of what his game is. The eye test tells me he kind of makes his money on the defensive end. Offensively, a little frustrating out there for the most part. Bronny James, not a good night, really. He did hit one fadeaway shot at the end of a shot clock buzzer that really got the crowd going, and also broke up a nice lob attempt. But other than that, it was a bad night again. Shooting threes, airballing them. I think he had like 2 or 3 airball threes. Not many rebounds, not many assists, that kind of thing. So it just wasn't a good night for Bronny for the most part. A jog fest, more or less. He has a lot of work to do to be an NBA player, man. And I just think that, like I said this morning, he can win championships for video games. If that's what he wants to be professionally, that's going to be what it is. But as far as his basketball thing, if he don't put in more work than he has been doing, he ain't gonna be around in the NBA. I don't have too much more to say other than that. He's got more work to do, man. So, a lot of people, including his father, were able to come into this league off of natural talent and gifts. He doesn't have that. He don't have that. He's gonna have to work hard to be an NBA player. And That's just the reality of it. He's a nice athlete. He has some good heads-up ability, but a lot of times he's just out of place. You could just tell he's not a naturally gifted basketball player. He has to really work hard at it. And so this is going to be the story. Is our franchise going to help him, or are they just going to set him up for an opportunity at failure? Because that's really what it's about. When a guy is not naturally gifted, but he's given an opportunity at a 4-year deal, it's almost like you're setting him up for failure, man. He's going to really need real coaching. He's going to need some real skills work. And it's going to take some time in the G League for him to develop, man. And if he's not good enough, he just ain't good enough. I don't care how much you try to shoe him in. He's just going to be a problem. So I like Bronny. I'm excited about the opportunity it has of developing. But asking him to be more than he is foolish. It's foolish. And right now we're seeing a guy who truly looks like he doesn't belong. I don't know what else to tell people. He's had his moments, but on that floor today, he looked like a guy who's not supposed to be out there with professionals. I can't even lie about it. That's what I saw. Driving into the lane without a purpose, footwork out of place in certain situations. He's an athlete. He's definitely got his father's athleticism. You know, he has the strength to be better, but he's not naturally gifted at basketball, man. He's just not. So what we're gonna have to do is demand he put in the work, or he's gonna fall by the wayside like many others do, man. He has an opportunity a lot of guys of his skill level will never get. So it's up to him to want it enough to get the most out of himself, or he gonna get laughed out of here. And so that's really what it comes down to, man. I hate to be that guy, but that's what I see. I saw a guy that looked like he shouldn't be out there, man. So that's enough of that. As far as Dalton Knecht, I thought he looked good, man. I thought he was one of the best players on the floor, but, you know, he's playing with a lot of guys that really didn't know what they were doing, and so he was trying to make up for it. It's kind of hard to be the only guy that's really good out there, and that's kind of what I have to say about that. A good portion of the time tonight, he wasn't out there with Max Lewis for very long, and frankly, the majority of what we have on the floor is not great, man. I like Traore. He showed some nice signs, especially diving for a steal. He always finds himself in a position to work hard for a steal and ends up coming up with it in situations where most players will give up. And I like that about Traore's game. His rebounding skills and stuff like that are excellent. He just needs a point guard to get him the ball, and we don't have that player on the floor. We do not have a facilitating point guard out there without Kuzi, and we didn't play Kuzi. So there were situations where he was available to get the ball, and they just didn't give it to him, or, you know what I mean? He's a guy who's relying upon others to make him look good. And if he's not being showcased, then he's jogging around out there. So I can't judge Traore because we just don't have the proper setup guy out there at all. And that's, I think, the majority of why we haven't seen any success in the summer league, because we genuinely do not have a point guard out there. They picked up Trenton Forrest. He's more like a 2. They want him to be a 1. They've asked Dalton Knecht to do it. He's done a great job setting people up, but he's a scorer. He's looking for that player to get him the ball. So I just think that the roster construction of the summer league team has been lacking, man. They lacked heavily. You cannot ask basketball players to run a significantly high-level basketball style without any facilitating presence on the floor. You cannot. And that's very frustrating to have to even say, man. But our team doesn't have that point guard. I understand that Jalen Hood-Schifino is supposed to be out there, but he is not. So if you're not going to run Kuzi, then guess what you're not going to have? Any cohesive basketball play. Bronny's not a point guard. East is not a point guard. Forrest is not a point guard. You don't have that facilitator, and it makes for awful basketball, and it makes for incomplete assessment of players. I can't tell you how good Traore is. I can't tell you how good Dalton looks. None of that is going to really tell the story, because these guys are being asked to create for themselves when they shouldn't be. And I think it's just naive as hell to think, oh, well, we got Bronny James out there, so he can be the point guard. He's 6'1", he's a point guard. No, Bronny James is a connective piece that can help you defensively, but he is not running your offense. He does not have those skills. It's not who he is. You're not even putting the ball in his hands for him to do so any damn way. So it's like, I'm watching Davies, not Davies, I won't call him Davies, but whatever, Sean East, whatever his name is, run around out there, and he's looking for floaters and ain't falling. You know, he's passing back and forth between the perimeter and catching it, dribble a little bit, and it's nothing happening there. So this was just one of the most frustrating basketball games for me to watch, because all we need is a facilitator, bro. And when we have Kuzi out there, we can move. We got dribble penetration, players who creating off the dribble to get others involved. And you see cohesive basketball play, people who know how to lob the ball to a center. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. And so this was an abomination to actually watch. And I blame the people who put this thing together, man. You should have put a point guard on this floor. It's not hard to find a facilitator. There's a million of them out there. You don't need them to be good or even in part of your future. Just somebody who can do the job so that you can properly showcase the rest of the players who need a point guard in order for them to be showcased. It's not rocket science, man. It's basketball. So the neglect of that particular thing just ruins everything else. It blows apart any data that you actually are able to define. If we're going to sit up here and define any of these players, we got to put an asterisk next to it saying without a point guard on the floor. So I was irritated, man. Coaching staff should have played Kuzi tonight. I see he got a DNP. I don't know if he was hurt. I don't think he was. They just chose to leave him out of it, I guess. And that choice left you no chance of actual basketball, not real basketball. In situations like this, you have to run a triangle type offense, man. You got to run specific types of plays that make it so that point guard is not necessary. And if you don't do that, then you got garbage. You got offense that's just awful. And that's exactly what we had down there. So kudos to guys like Dalton Knecht and Max Lewis, who were able to make something out of it. You know, you got a catch and shoot guy like what's the fella's name from Pitt? He had his shot going. I can't think of his name right now, but you know, he was able to hit some threes out there, but he would have been so much better if he would have had a point guard looking for him in the corner and stuff like that. So his piece is incomplete. Traore's piece is incomplete. As long as you don't have a point guard out there, these players who are receivers, catch and shoot guys and catch and go guys, they can't do what they do. That's pretty much what it comes down to. So, yeah, man. I don't know why I can't think of that fella's name. I usually have that one in mind, but I thought he shot pretty well. All the other aspects of his game kind of lack. He's not really great at much else. This is what we said. But the shooting, when it's there, it's there, and when it's not, that's just what it is. So yeah, that's what I have to say about a particular player from Pitt, of whom I cannot remember his name at the 4 S word, without trying to rhyme badly. But yeah, man, it is what it is. I hated this game. I hated every second of it, to be completely honest with you. I thought it was an awful watch for the majority of it, with the exception of when Maxwell Lewis was hitting threes in the first quarter. That was the only part of that game that was actually worth watching. The rest of it was pretty trash. Dalton Knecht did some nice things driving at the rim, finger roll layups and dunks and stuff like that. I thought was pretty cool. So I like watching Dalton Knecht, and I think if you actually put him next to some guys who could play, he'll be a hell of a piece. But if he's the best player on the floor and everybody else is running like a chicken with the head cut off, then he's also not very good out there. And so that was part of the problem there. And it didn't help that we were going up against Boston, man. I mean, I didn't really look at it with that certain, like, oh, we're going against the Celtics type rivalry. But at the end of the day, this represents the Celtics. Jaylen Brown was in the house. Like, this is the Celtics. So once again, we fell short to our rivals, and that never feels good, not even in the summertime. So, yeah, that's my take, man. This is an incomplete basketball team. The roster is constructed for Jalen Hood-Schifino to run the point, and he's not out there, so we just can't play basketball. We could do the best we can around the margins and other areas, rebounding, and, you know, like I said, Dalton Knecht makes plays for some people at times, so it looks pretty solid. But This is not real basketball, man. Those who know. Either you run a triangle without a point guard so that you don't need that damn point guard, or you get that point guard out there so that you can run a play that actually showcases people so you can have proper data. Because this, I'm telling you, was not, you couldn't take nothing from this. It's absolutely pointless to even have our guys out there in a situation like this, if I'm being completely honest with you. But we walk out of there healthy, and that's kind of what it is, man. So, you know, a lot of people want to move on from D'Angelo Russell. Jalen Hood-Schifino, we have yet to see what he's going to turn into. But I say the same thing at the end of this game as I said at the end of the last one. I need the big team to not have this problem at any given moment. And I get it. LeBron James can be a point guard, off-ball facilitator. Anthony Davis has turned into a much better facilitator over time. Austin Reeves, these guys can really facilitate if they need to. But I get the feeling that this is a prelude to some of the problems that our big team could potentially have. Not to this degree, obviously, but at the end of the day, you really need a point guard down there that can be reliable, that is developed, and that can get the ball to other people. And this is important, man. This is not something that you can actually win in the big leagues without having. So that's my stress on this game. Awful to watch. And I blame the front office for not putting a real point guard down there in Jalen Hood-Schifino's stead. So I do not expect us to win any Summer League games. We haven't won any. And I don't expect us to. Until this problem is effectively figured out, you ain't beating nobody on a professional level. Not even in Summer League. So that's pretty much my take on things. I know people are going to talk about how bad Bronny looked. But that's not... Even Bronny, if I'm being honest with you, is incomplete data. Because I don't think he looks that bad without a facilitating point guard on the floor. Some of the stuff that you asking him to do, it ain't the same when you put with Isaiah Collier next to him. Suddenly he looks a little better. Suddenly his piece makes more sense too. So, I don't know, man. I believe I understand this game pretty well. And when it comes to running with a purpose, I don't find that we actually have in the Summer League. I don't actually feel that we have. You can run guys around and you can think you're taking information, take notes on what their game is, but this is incomplete. It's incomplete data, man, at the end of the day. So that's pretty much what I got to say, man. I hated every second of that, with the exception of a few highlights that came from a few players. I'm glad we walk out of here healthy, but that's really all I have to say. My name is BDL44. I thank you all for watching. I'm out.